Okay, here we're going to look at solving some single variable inequalities, and when we solve these, basically we're going to take all the same steps that we do to solve a normal equation for x, just this time we have to deal with an inequality sign, and we'll also graph our answers on the number line. Now, the way we do this here is we treat it just like we would a normal equation. So I have negative 2 less than x minus 5. I'm going to isolate the x. So I'm going to move that minus 5 to the other side. So I'm going to add 5 to both sides here. And negative 2 plus 5 gives me 3. And then don't do anything with your inequality sign. Keep dropping it down. And then I have x here. And so this is our inequality. Now, it's not a big deal to have x on the left or the right. Now, what I just wrote, that's the same thing as writing x first. The inequality sign still opens towards the x, and then I have the 3 on the pointed side of the inequality. Both of those mean the same thing. How you leave it or write it doesn't really make that much of a difference. Now, the inequality is based on a value of 3, and that inequality sign does not have a line up under, so it's an open circle. Now, reading that inequality sign, the opening is towards the x, which means x has to include all numbers bigger than that 3, so I'd shade to the right. Now let's look at this one here. So we have 4 greater than or equal to x over 9. Now, I solved this problem before I start graphing it, and so I have 4 greater than or equal to x divided by 9. I need to get x all by itself. So what I would need to do to undo the division by 9 is I'm going to have to multiply both sides by what I'm dividing by. That's going to take the 9 off the x. 9 times 4 is 36. My inequality sign and x. So there is my inequality here. So looking at the inequality sign, it has a line up under it, which means I include that value. So I'm going to put a closed circle at 36. And then I got to figure out which way to shade. Well, if I'm reading that inequality, it says 36 is greater than or equal to x. So x has to be numbers smaller than 36. Another way to look at it, x is on the smaller side of the inequality sign, the point, so I'm shading towards smaller numbers. Another one here. 0 greater than negative 4a. 0 is greater than negative 4a. And I wanted to get a all by itself. So what I would have to do is divide both sides by negative 4. 0 divided by negative 4 is 0. And then I would have no longer have the negative 4 on the a. Here is the big difference with inequalities and the equal sign, is when you divide by a negative, you have to turn the inequality sign the other direction. So when I divide by a negative, you got to flip the sign to the other way. And so here's the inequality we're working with. Everything's in relation to 0. It's an open circle because there's no line under the inequality. A is towards the open part of the inequality, so I shade towards larger numbers. All right, so 0 is greater than or equal to 1 plus b over 14. I wanted to get everything relative to b, so I got to move things away from it. I start by moving the addition to the other side, so I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. That's going to give me negative 1 greater than or equal to b over 14. Now I have to multiply by 14 because b is being divided by 14. So I got to times both sides by 14. That's going to give me negative 14 greater than or equal to b. Now I do not flip the inequality sign here because I multiplied by a positive number. If I would have multiplied by a negative, then I'd have to turn it. So here we go to negative 14. solid circle because we have a line under the inequality sign saying to include it. B is on the pointed side of the inequality, so I shade towards smaller values. So we have 16 is less than 2 times x minus 5. We're going to have to distribute that 2. So we'd have 2x, and then distribute the 2 to the 5 plus 10. I need to move things away from the x, so I'm going to have to move the adding 10 to the other side by subtracting it. So minus 10 from both sides. That's going to give me 6 is less than 2x, or excuse me, 16 is less than, it's not 16. That's going to give me 6 is less than 2x. And then lastly, I have to divide by 2 to get x all by itself. And so we have 3 is less than x as our inequality. So we're going to go to 3. It's an open circle because there's no line up under the inequality sign. And since the inequality sign opens towards x, we're going to shade towards bigger numbers. So I'm going to shade towards the right. Last one here. So I want to isolate the n to see what it is relative to a value in this inequality. So let me rewrite the problem here in the bottom. Negative 9 plus 9n is less than 144. Start by moving any adding or subtracting. So I got to move the minus 9 by adding it to both sides. That's going to give me 9n is less than 153. And now we want to divide by 9. It's going to give us n is less than 17. So open circle at 17, and n is on the pointed side of the inequality, so we shade towards smaller numbers. So n can be any number smaller than 17.